Welcome back, everyone. I popped into some of those sessions and there were some interesting and thought-provoking discussions happening. I hope you all got a lot of value out of them. I know I did. Before we head into our final panel, I want to once again thank all of our sponsors from the event. First off is the Charlie Daniels Journey Hope Project, who is sponsoring as a SOF advocate sponsor. Then we have Worldwide Risk Management on board as a SOF support sponsor. And of course, the kind donation from Mr. Bill Pinmont. Thank you all for supporting the execution of this SOF Team Room event. Also, we want to thank everyone who contributed to the content of this event. We will conclude this evening with part 2 of the legacy conversation with our esteemed panelists from part 1, and that will be followed briefly by some closing remarks from Ms. Kaylee Lehman from the Military Special Operations Family Collaboration. Chris, I'll go ahead and hand it over to you.
All right, so thank you, Dan. And as we kind of move into the final portion of this event tonight, I want to take a minute and just read a few sentences from an article that was in the Army Times from just a couple weeks ago. So Green Berets at Fort Bragg helped rescue about 400 people, but as the sleepless nights wear on and the ability to effect change diminished with the withdrawal of U.S. troops, feelings of helplessness and hopelessness are hitting hard. And from the article, I would also add anguish, a lot of anguish there, as people are watching and seeing what's actually happening on the ground in real time and aware of some of the tragic atrocities and the horrors that were taking place there. So I want to move now into, so this is as a backdrop, move into the question of meaning, purpose and meaning. And we know, social scientists, psychologists, and many others know that meaning and purpose are critically important for our lives and our well-being. So my question, and I'm going to put this to the Sergeant Major, is how do you find the meaning from your career when you're looking back? And how do you find the meaning? Where is the meaning looking forward?
Wow, that's a good one, Chris. So I would say that I would repeat my service again. Absolutely, I'm fortunate that the toll on my mind and body and family were not so great that I bear any regrets at all. And so what's the meaning come from? I would just kind of go back to the great people that I served with and the memories that I will always have, and far beyond what is happening now, I will cling to those memories. They'll never tarnish. And I think the challenge really is for all of us to try the best we can to put politics aside, separate that, and enjoy the friendships that we had, and remember those that we lost, and take care of those Gold Star families the best we can. And I'll pass over General Nagata. I'm sure he's got some thoughts as well.
Thanks, Bill. As I look back, I think my pursuit of meaning, or what was meaningful to me, has changed over time. If I think about what I thought was meaningful when I was a brand new first lieutenant graduate of the Special Forces qualification course, I think my pursuit, and of course I was a bachelor back then, so I didn't have to worry about a family. What gave me meaning, I think back then, was anything I could do to prove myself to my colleagues, frankly, prove myself to myself. How fast could I run? How far could I swim? How much could I carry on my back? All the things we have to do to prove ourselves in SOF. That's what gave me meaning. But then I did get married and started raising a family. I still wanted to be able to prove myself. I didn't let go of that, but now there was another layer to what brought me meaning. And that was, could I be a successful husband? Could I be a successful father? Could I just be a successful contributor to a family? So that was another layer of what gave me meaning. And then later on, as I took on more and more leadership responsibilities, as I gained more rank, There was a third one. Could I be meaningful to my country in some way? I will have to leave it to others to judge how well I did at any of those three. But as I look back, I am glad that I gradually accrued those three pursuits of being meaningful. And just like Bill said, if somebody turned back the hands of time and said, okay, Nagata, you can either do it all over again or you can do something else, I would 100% do it all over again.
One of the things that I often find myself in conversations about is our nation's veterans. And the VA system has their own approach to treating and taking care of veterans and providing a disability safety net. But there seems to be this narrative in America that veterans, most combat veterans, are broken, damaged, not functioning in a way that's optimal or even predictable. And that's not the veterans I know. The veterans I know are incredibly capable, powerful, resilient, and talented individuals. And so we need every single one of you to not just transition out of the service effectively, but transition into something that's going to be meaningful and a contribution, continued contribution and service to America. Bill, what kind of advice would you give people from the community about transitioning out of the service, or what kind of thoughts or ideas come to the surface?
Oh, okay, Chris. So I would say, first and foremost, plan early. One day, even if you stay a long time, like General Nagata and I did, eventually it's going to end. And so you should be ready for that. And so, I've got good advice early on that I should start thinking about transition, up to 2 years out. I mean, there's some things you can and can't do that far out, but, if it's just talking things over with your spouse to know kind of what you want to do. And I got some really good advice from an old CSM, Iggy Balderas, and he said, Bill, transition is like putting up a tripod. Whether you put a camera or a machine gun on your tripod, it doesn't matter, but it should be level. And the three legs of the tripod are location, job satisfaction, and salary, and trying to find a balance for what you're going to do. And so, I of course tell people transition is a team event. Don't try to do it all on your own. Include your family, because things like location, it's going to, a spouse with a good career, or kids in school, or aging parents. Obviously, that's it's going to factor in. So where do you want to go? What's ideal? Where is okay? I'd be okay going somewhere, and where do you swear you're never going to want to go? And then for job satisfaction, what do you want to pursue? Do you like what you do in the military? Do you want to just kind of continue that? Or do you want to try something completely different? Maybe be an entrepreneur or do something that you've always dreamed of. And then, of course, the last thing is salary, which we as service members don't have any practice negotiating a salary. And so you got to talk to a lot of people, get a lot of advice, and try to figure out, where is that happy balance to you? I mean, I think every couple, every family knows, hey, this is what we need at the very least to kind of sustain and take care of our obligations. And then from there, what's good money? Good money when a potential corporation or boss offers you good money, you smile a little bit and say, yeah, now we can do those things that we always wanted to do. And then that last level, as Iggy said, was wow money. Wow money, the whole family's doing cartwheels and thinking, okay, this is the big time. Of course, what I tell people is if someone's offering you wow money, they want you to reconsider your location or that job satisfaction element, so that you'll kind of go back on one of those. And then you and your spouse got to figure out, okay, well, we can do anything for a couple of years for that kind of money, right? So I would say plan early and just as a family, kind of figure out your parameters of what you want to do in life after the military, because there is definitely life after the military. So I'll pass to General Nagata. Go ahead, Chris. You have something else?
Well, I was going to say you snuck it in there, and it was beautiful. The bit about talking with your family, including your family in that process. I just drawing attention to that. And I'll let General Nagata chime in now.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Bill. First of all, Chris, I want to completely agree with you. In my case, my family absolutely insisted on being part of that conversation, whether I wanted them to be part of it or not. And in retrospect, I'm really glad they did, because on at least one occasion, they stopped me from doing something really dumb. But more seriously, thanks for teeing this up. I can't resist by starting with just a comment about something that you're right about. There is this rather unfortunate but all too common narrative that if you're a combat veteran, that somehow you're damaged goods or you're broken in some way. It's complete nonsense. There is one aspect of this that instead of seeing it as a liability or a disability, we should actually be proud of. And whoever your future coworkers might be after you transition out, I hope they are proud of it too. It's something that the Supreme Court Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes was quoted saying after his experiences in the American Civil War, where he talked about how the experiences of war had set veterans apart in some ways from the rest of American society. He even used his famous quote, "In our youth, our hearts were touched with fire." We are set apart by our experiences. That doesn't make us better, that doesn't make us special, but it does make us different. And we should own that difference. We should be proud of what we went through to have that difference. It does set us apart. It's not a judgment call, it's just a concrete, manifest difference. But more pertinent to what you asked about, as I look back on my own transition, in retrospect, I see far more clearly what I should have been doing than I did when I started out. That's usually the case in human life. But as I look back, I think if I had the opportunity to somehow, like in a movie, magically transport myself back in time and talk to myself as I was getting ready to retire, here's what I would have told me. I would have told me that there really are two things I needed to focus on. The first is really important, but in a way, it's kind of the mechanical aspects of transitioning out. It's things like, where do I want to live? What kind of job do I want to have? What kind of house do I want to live in? Those things, really important. How much am I going to make? Really important, but kind of mechanical. You'll regret it if you don't pay attention to it, but it's not the only thing you should pay attention to. And what I didn't pay enough attention to was a question that is actually much harder to answer. And it's simply this: what is going to bring me joy? And I use that word joy very deliberately. It's not what entertains me. It's not what makes me temporarily happy. Joy tends to be durable and permanent, and it's a really hard question to answer. But it's one that I should have spent a lot more time on. But what really got me focused on it finally was, as usual, good advice from my spouse. One day she came up to me as I was agonizing over some of these mechanical choices, and she said, "Look, do us all a favor and find something to do that's going to make you really happy. Because when you're not happy, you make the rest of us freaking miserable. So for God's sake, find something that's going to bring you joy." And that finally got me on the right path. Thanks for the question.
I'm going to jump in here to go back and reference a couple of points that you both made. And Bill, I'm going to start with you in a second, but I want to tee this up. You've both been talking about this idea of commitment, proving yourself, moving forward, being dedicated. That's why people choose the life you choose. And then there's this period of transition, and people will always say, "Oh, it's time to transition. We should move on." But here's the problem. is that all this time of being part of this community, this tribe, any distraction from the tribe shows a lack of commitment. So anything, whether it be looking after your family or getting ready to go out and transition out, is immediately seen or is perceived to be seen as this lack of commitment to the team. Like you're a part-timer, you're a short timer, whatever. And so I guess my question, Bill, because it's an NCO-led organization, and given that SOF wasn't designed to do 20 years of war, that's not what the designers had in mind. And so now that you've had some time to look back on your career, if you were to advise your teammates around this idea of commitment, this idea of proving yourself not just to the job, but to the joy that Mike's talking about, because all of you shouldn't have to sacrifice your lives to do this work. You should be able to do both. And so with that in mind, I'll turn it over to you, Bill. Any thoughts?
Wow, that's a tough one because our careers are very demanding, and to be successful at it, you do have to really give everything you have, and you need a supportive family, and everybody's got to be willing to sacrifice and kind of get things going. But as you say, when you know the twilight is coming, I think you do have to partial a little bit of time and energy and think about the future. I don't think you have to completely neglect your duties. I know for me at the senior level, I didn't get months and months and months of time to kind of sort myself out. I was kind of told, hey, when you pass the colors for General Botel, you got like 90 days and good luck to you. So all that pre-planning and preparation paid off because I didn't have a lot of time. But I think within the SOF community, I think we're doing a pretty good job from what I can tell, and giving people some time as they wind down their duties, whether it's a change of command or a change of responsibility for the senior leaders to kind of backward plan all that and give individuals, the right amount of time, if it's at 6 months to get themselves sorted out and take care of their VA appointments and all the medical stuff that I always tell folks, don't blow that off. Don't take those appointments lightly, because it's hard to go back and do it over again. So I think we are getting better as a community, Preston, really.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that surprise question. Mike, any thoughts on that?
Life is full of paradoxes, and I think the question you're posing is one of them. It is a paradox. There are things in life that are at least to some degree irreconcilable. And I think anybody who spends a career in special operations lives this. There is this both professional but also deeply emotional urge to be part of the team, to be a useful contributor to the team, when you're standing on the objective after a successful operation, you're telling yourself, I did my part. I did not let the team down. Whatever success or mishap we went through, I didn't let my teammates down. That is a deeply felt emotional connection to something that, frankly, using the word I used before, brings any successful SOF operator enormous, durable joy. We don't talk about it like that because, if we say crap like that in the team room, you sound like a wuss, but it's still true. It's still true. And it makes you just hungry for more because it makes you feel so good. It is, frankly, a little addictive, but in a positive way. And it's why, in large measure, why our very small teams are so disproportionately effective and powerful. That said, it is to one degree or another in conflict with this reality that Bill talked about. Eventually the shot clock runs out on you. Eventually somebody's going to look at you and say, you know what, thanks for your years of selfless service, but it's time to go. We got to make room at the top for the next generation coming in. And they're absolutely right. So, like I said earlier, there are a lot of mechanical things you got to do and do well. And you need time and opportunity to do those things. I mean, just one, Learning to effectively talk to the Veterans Administration took me months, and I'm still not completely sure I've cracked the code, but it takes time. But I just want to return to what I said earlier. The most important thing is this very difficult to answer question. What's going to make me happy? What is going to bring me, and nothing will ever be like being in that team room or standing on that objective after you've successfully taken it. Nothing's going to be like that ever again. But that doesn't mean you can't find something that brings you joy. You just have to figure it out.
So let's talk. We've got about 5 minutes left, and this has been a great conversation, and I hope we'll do this again soon. The question I'd like to close with for tonight is, and let's think broadly about America here. What is the SOF legacy going forward with America, and what are some of the challenges to that legacy?
Let's see. I would say, Chris, I think our nation has learned that the SOF community will be there to do whatever the country needs us to do. We will adapt and develop ourselves in new ways and create new capabilities, whether that's for great power competition or something else. And I kind of see it happening now a little bit. So I think we'll adapt. I don't think our nation will ever have to worry about, can the SOF community figure out what they need to do to help out and support the general purpose forces and the geographic combatant commands. SOF will be there. I think our credibility is high enough that no one will doubt that. And I think that going forward, we'll prove ourselves when the time comes. General Nagata, what do you think?
I completely agree with you. If someone had told me, that young First Lieutenant Nagata struggling his way through the Q course, that SOF in a couple of decades would have the soaring reputation we now have, I would have said, "You're nuts. It's never going to be that good." But here it is. Here it is. But you've asked a fair question about what the future will hold. I personally think it's going to hold two truths that have both positive and potentially a few negative consequences, some of which we talked about here. I said earlier that, there's every once in a while there's this rift that, we're going to be able to take a knee now. The war on terror is subsiding. So, we'll be able to go back to training and school and what have you. I don't believe it for a second. I've heard these predictions too many times. Mm-hmm. Something else will pop up on the horizon, and somebody will be saying, just like the quote from Isaiah, who will go for us? And we'll be saying, here I am, send me, and they'll send us. But more practically, there's a debate going on in Washington, D.C. It's been going on for at least 4 years because of the emergence of what we're styling great power competition that, as counterterrorism becomes less important, great power competition, that means SOF's going to be a little less relevant than it once was. I don't believe it for a second. I do not believe it for a second, because great power competition, these near-peer adversaries, this is an incredibly complex problem. And not all of it happens in ways that you can solve with gunpowder. A lot of it happens in cyberspace. A lot of it happens just in the war over influence and relationships. So what is SOF best at? This is what we tell ourselves when we're going through training, and what we tell ourselves whenever we're getting ready for a wicked problem. Well, I don't completely know whether our plan is going to work, but it doesn't really matter. We will improvise, adapt, and overcome. We have lived by that credo for decades. And by living by that credo, we will improvise, adapt, and overcome. We now have this soaring reputation that I, as a first lieutenant, never believed we would ever have. So what does the future hold? So long as we hew to being the world's greatest problem solvers by improvising, adapting, and overcoming, I have no concerns about the future of a SOF except one. We got to get better at dealing with the fact that we're so freaking busy.
That's probably a really good point to end on. And we're about out of time. So maybe we could turn this over to our master of ceremonies, Dan.
Thank you, Chris. And thank you once again, gentlemen, for your time and commitment to this conversation. We're honored to have you here. I know I'm pulling in a lot of thoughts from the conversations in the small group. So I'll definitely be chewing on this for a few days. So thank you again. I too am honored to be here tonight. This is really important, not to the type of, and this is not the type of thing that you would have seen happening in the community even a few years ago, but it's important to start having these conversations and to keep these conversations going. So I'm honored to be here and play a role in this. Our last speaker tonight is Kaylee Lehman. Kaylee is the Executive Director for the Military Special Operations Collaborative. Kaylee, welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it. For those of you who don't know me or got to experience my multitasking in some of the sprints, I'm Kaylee Lehman. I'm the Executive Director of the Military Special Operations Family Collaborative, a nonprofit public health initiative for the SOF community. If some of you are wondering, what brought this event about tonight, it really was the unfolding of Afghanistan. As we worked on coming up with a strategic, collaborative path forward to communicate, educate, and connect the whole SOF community to effective resources, research, and education. Afghanistan unfolded, and we got to see service members and families in a position they've never been in before. And with our great partnership with the Global SOF Foundation, this event came about, and we're excited and hopeful it becomes a continuing conversation in the community, addressing issues that need to be talked about and hearing your voice and questions. So I can't go any further without thanking General Nagata, CSM Thetford, your bold, insightful leadership. It just continues to impact and strengthen the whole SOF community. Your voice is, it resonates, it's courageous, and it needs to be heard. Dr. Frueh and Cline, thank you for prioritizing this legacy conversation. You have a valuable voice and trusted role in the community, and it can't be replaced anywhere. Dan, you've been a fantastic master of ceremonies. Thank you for facilitating this SOF Team Room. Everyone running the wellness sprints, the on-the-ground needs. You impact change, you save lives daily, and you do the hard work. Thank you for always going the extra mile for the community and being here tonight. We couldn't have done this event without our sponsors, the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project, Worldwide Risk Management, and Mr. Pinmont. Thanks, huge thanks to our MSOF event team and the Global SOF team who have worked tirelessly over the last several weeks and months to shape these conversations and sprints and bring everyone together. Your heart and your dedication is unmatched, much like our SOF families and community. Special Ops, it's a unique community. We have courage, talent, endurance. We do the hard, intense, sophisticated missions. We make them look easy, and we don't quit. Our families overcome with the same heart and tenacity at home. These are characteristics built into our core. They make SOF an incredible community, capable of overcoming persistent challenges. It's through collaboration and conversations like tonight that we better care for each other, get resources into the hands of people who need them, tackle tough topics, and chart the course forward for the SOF legacy. If you have questions, feedback about tonight, please send them our way. We will be getting recordings of tonight out to all of you. Please also, if you're SOF active duty or veteran, don't forget to click the link. 6 to 7 minutes, give Global SOF Foundation your feedback. It's going to shape strategic work they are doing, conversations happening at SOCOM, and many other on the ground efforts through our collaboratives. If you're a family member, keep an eye out for a survey that will be coming your way. We see you, we work hard for you, and we're here to help you meet your needs and create the resources that'll match your experience. Thank you for coming tonight. We appreciate all of you, and tune in for the next SOF Team Room conversation. Thanks.